Hi, welcome to Drama Means. This week we're talking about the 2024 Taiwanese drama Unknown. Today, drama means found family, drama means pushing yourself too hard, and drama means living life without regrets.
First, a little bit of a summary. Wei Qian is raising his younger sister all on his own when he decides to take on more responsibility by giving shelter to an abandoned boy who was living on the streets. After years of living as a family, things get complicated when the young man develops romantic feelings for Wei Qian. Feelings neither man knows how to navigate clearly. So this is one of those dramas that Mel watches on her own first, and then falls in love with, and talks about, and gives constant updates about how the show's going and what the show's about and how much she loves it. And then I really have to sit down and watch it because of the rave reviews.
Yes.
And that's this show.
And also, I like to rewatch it. So not only have I told Ryan that he had to watch it, and then we watched it, and then I immediately, after we finished it and my second time watching it, I went to another friend. I'm like, hey, let's watch it together.
Yeah, so not to bury the lead, this is going to receive fairly high marks from Mel. Like, she liked this drama very, very much.
Yes. I'm, like, obsessed.
Which we don't get over every drama. I feel like this is the kind of drama that gives you a drama hangover.
Yes.
And afterwards, you kind of mope around and aren't sure what to watch next. So then you just watch the show again next.
Yeah, pretty much.
Which has to be the definition of drama hangover. If you can't find anything else to watch, that you just rewatch the thing you just finished.
Yeah. The thing is, there are times when I get drama hangover where I'm like, I don't necessarily want to rewatch it, but I, like, don't, like, I feel, like, sad and melancholy because that particular drama is done. This one, I will rewatch it another 10 times, probably. Maybe 30 times. Who knows?
So you liked it?
I freaking loved it. So I do have to say, like, as of late, other dramas that we've been watching, I haven't been getting the emotions that I'm, like, seeking. And then this comes along, and all those emotions that I was seeking, and, like, I just wanted to feel all the feelings that the actors and the characters are feeling, that I'm like, this is it. This did it for me. Whereas I was, like, searching for other dramas, like, thinking that was going to give me, like, what I wanted to feel and the type of love I wanted to experience through, characters and fictional characters and things like that. But, like, I wasn't getting it until I started watching Unknown.
I feel very similarly because I don't want to say this drama is without tropes, but it feels like in a very black and white world filled with very common tropes of friends to enemies or lovers to friends and enemies to lovers, whatever the
what
tropes
are. You
are.
Talking about?
I'm talking about the dumb things. I actually meant to say enemies to lovers. That's what I meant to say. I said it wrong. But you know what I mean. That it feels like a lot of these shows are paint by the numbers.
Yeah.
And this one for sure wasn't paint by the numbers. It felt more complex. It felt more nuanced. I think it felt subtle, sometimes to its own detriment. But it felt more real because we weren't just waiting for the moment he runs in and saves his life trope to happen, or the miscommunication from the overheard conversation trope that would then cause conflict. It felt like they were really trying to do something very specific and out of just this black and white, right and wrong, left and right, just world that we live in that's so surface.
Yeah, and you can tell the filmmakers just took so much care into developing this particular drama, and I appreciate it so much, especially, as I've said before, I found that a lot of the Taiwanese dramas were still stuck in their heyday, but yet still really, like, low budget, and they started making dramas, like, the same, since, I don't know, early 2000s, when it was, like, it's at its most popular. And then since I've said that, we've started seeing, like, dramas like Oh No, Here Comes Trouble and Now Unknown, and you know, there's several others that it's like, wow, they really upped their game, and I just appreciate it so much because I've been waiting for so long for this.
We're going to spend a lot of time talking about the emotions and the characters and the acting and all that stuff, but I do want to shout out to the set design of this particular show, because it's not fantastical, you know, sci-fi sets, but all of the sets feel very comfortable. They all feel like we're being invited into these people's homes. I'm not saying they live a comfortable house. I'm saying it feels like it's their home, their space. It feels so organic to the characters of each scene, of each setting. It just works so well that the space is cramped when it needs to be cramped, and it's spacious when it needs to be spacious, and it's crappy when it needs to be crappy, and it's homey when it needs to be homey, and that doesn't happen by accident.
Yeah, it just feels so real. I was sitting there watching them in their little, like, dining room / kitchen area, and I was just looking at all the props there, and I'm like, these are things we have in our own home. These are like, and just like the dishes they use and how he washes his dishes, to that extent, I'm like, that's him washing dishes. I bet you that's how he washes dishes at home. It just felt so real, and I just felt like, yes, I am just like, I mean, a little voyeuristic, but I'm like watching their lives.
Yeah, you're really invited into their house, and it feels like, it doesn't feel set-y at all. I don't know whether or not this was a practical location. I'm talking about the house, or whether or not they shot on location at a house. It feels like this was a set you would build just because of how much they were in it, but I don't know. Either way, it felt so organic, and it felt like a place that these characters would live and spend their time and all that stuff. It just was really well done, and I don't think people often give the credit to props and set dressing and set designing when you just kind of don't even notice it because it's so good.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it's not a set that was built. I'm pretty sure it is like
a house location.
Yeah.
Yeah. Could be a mixture of both. Sometimes different studios or studio spaces will own like row housing. Like in Burbank, Warner Brothers owns just a row of houses right across the street from the studio that they use to house executives and actors when they're in town shooting, but also you can use them to film so that you don't have to build a set. You can just go across the street and use a house. There are problems with that, but you do get a sense of realism from it too.
Yeah. I'm like already getting teary-eyed. Like we're talking about it and I'm just like picturing the set and like them sitting at their little dining room table, and I'm like getting teary-eyed already.
They had a rice cooker.
No, it's not the right, it's just everything. Like from like, you know, the boxes of junk food to like teas and stuff, and like maybe it's even product placement, but their product placement was decently subtle, I guess.
Yeah, I never noticed them really doing product placement, which means that I don't see a lot of it, even the obvious ones. I think I've trained myself just to look past it because, you know what, you can love it or hate it, but it's here to stay. And the thing about product placement is it helps pay for your favorite show. So if holding a bag of Lay's potato chips makes the show possible, go ahead and do it. So I kind of look past it now, but I didn't notice it at all in this show, and that's even better.
That's really good because most of the time we do notice it. I mean, I did notice it, like the beer and the...
There was a juice box in one scene. The dude was like sucking on the sampan guy, and that he was just sucking on a juice box for an abnormally long amount of time.
Yeah, and then like some snacks, the snacks that he brought over, and specifically like, you know, named off every single snack he bought. Yeah.
Okay, so there was a little bit, but I honestly didn't notice.
So I do feel that it is, the characters and like their feelings are very relatable. Not necessarily their situation for myself, but just knowing like how deep their love is, and then that leading to like the decisions that they make. I find that relatable.
I relate to struggle. I relate to all of these characters who were given kind of a raw deal, whether or not it was an abusive mother or living on the street, being abandoned or whatever, being involved in a gang. Again, I can't relate directly to being involved in a gang, but I can relate to struggle. So story is about characters who are given a raw deal and then kind of band together to dig their way out of it, to me, just me personally, that's hard not to relate to.
Yeah.
Even done poorly, and this wasn't done poorly.
Yeah, and which that leads like how complex the characters are, and then the relationships that they have are very complex. So I definitely empathize with the situation where you're watching basically a child raise two children and just basically always putting them before themselves. And I can see it with like, oh, you're raising your sister, your younger sister, who's blood related, and then you're putting her before yourself. But like now he's definitely put another person that he found on the street before himself, before his own well-being, to the point where literally his own bed is smaller than Xiaoyuan's bed.
Yeah, well, honestly, his fear, and he kind of articulates this much later in the show, which I think is good, it doesn't come right out, is he's so worried about becoming his mother, becoming that person who disappoints the people you're supposed to protect. You know, victimize the people you're supposed to protect, which his mother kind of did to him. And so once he decided, and he kind of saw a little bit of himself in this kid on the street, like he says it himself, oh, I was thrown away, and my sister was thrown away, and you're thrown away, and we're this ragtag group of orphans, for lack of a better term. We have to band together. And then his greatest fear becomes failing them, because the social contract between mother and son, or father and son, you know, parents and children, the social contract is, well, you brought me into the world and you're going to protect me. And that's the deal until I'm able to protect myself. And for all three of them, that deal wasn't seen through. And so he picks up the torch and he does not want to drop it, you know? And it's, to me, that's the strongest emotion out of all of it. We can talk about the romance and we talk about the feelings between everyone. But to me, that was the thing that kept running through my head when I watched it, of this responsibility that just weighed on him. Like he had no choice but to succeed.
I'm crying now. Yeah, so, and it just feels so raw when you're watching it. You know, like, not only are you witnessing them feeling these emotions and these struggles and responsibilities, now it feels like that weight is on your own shoulders as an audience. And it's just...
Well, they're communicating it well.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to talk a lot about every range of emotion, but it felt like to me this, for better or for worse, this was the emotion that rang the truest, was this sense of responsibility and wanting to be there for each other in every direction. Like,
yeah,
it kind of cut both ways, even for all the characters. They all wanted to take care of each other.
Yeah. And I think they really lightened these emotions by just calling it like family ties and like the emotions that like family brings together. But really it's deeper than just family, which is even... Like, how can it be deeper than family? But it is. It's just so much stronger. It feels so real. And it's just like all the emotions are just like overflowing.
I mean, I'll make the argument that it is deeper than family because you don't get to choose your family. And he did have a choice. When his mother passed away, him and his sister could have gone into the system. And they could have gone to, I don't know how the system exactly works in Taiwan. I'm not going to speak on as an expert on that. But there's probably a system in place they could have been shoved into and lost and maybe never seen each other again. And he could have just absolved himself of responsibility. He definitely didn't have to take in this other kid.
Yeah.
He had no responsibility for this child who was laying in the streets. But he decided to anyway. And that now you've made that decision. And that makes me as an audience member wants him to succeed so much more because he did take this all on.
Yeah. And I mean, like, he walked down a path he didn't necessarily want to walk just to give the kid he picked up a name.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think in those scenes where, you know, he gets in the fight to try to get out from underneath the gang, it's like, really, is it over the top a little bit? Sure. But it really did dramatize and explain like how much he's willing to go through to man up to these responsibilities.
Yeah. I do have to say, like, I think a lot of it also helps that the actors really did a good job, you know, conveying the emotions, conveying, like, the story, the plot, everything. Like, it's just, it really was, you know, drawn out so that the audience can feel the way that they feel. And I actually didn't expect it to be as good. I knew that it was going to have more effort in it because it is a popular title. It's the original book is written by Priest. So I knew that they were going to take extra care in doing it. Otherwise they would get a lot of, you know, negative feedback from Priest fans.
Yeah, the A-team, the A-game team is going to be assigned to this one. You're not getting the scrubs.
Yeah. But, like, I actually don't, so I wasn't expecting Chris's acting to be as good as it is because, I know he wasn't in Brown Sugar Macchiato back in the day, back in the Lollipop days, which Chris was part of Lollipop.
Wait, he was in Brown Sugar Macchiato?
So he was not in Brown Sugar Macchiato because by the time Brown Sugar Macchiato was filmed, I think Lollipop was split into, like, subgroups.
Right, Lollipop's the boy group.
Yeah, it's like this huge, like, several member, like, I don't know, maybe like the NCT of, you're not going to get that either. Never mind.
Listen, say the Super Junior of Taiwan, and I'm there. They're the F4. I know my boy groups. How dare you?
Well, Super Junior is member-wise, the amount of members is not as much as NCT, like 127.
Okay, now we're getting lost in the weeds.
Okay, anyway, so Lollipop was like a huge, you know, several people group, but then by the time Brown Sugar Macchiato was filmed, which I was introduced to Lollipop through, well, I was actually introduced to Wang Zi, which made a cameo in Unknown.
Okay.
Through the old Taiwanese drama They Kiss Again. And then after that, because I knew that, I found out that Wang Zi was part of Lollipop, and then that led me to watch Brown Sugar Macchiato. But I knew that Chris was, you know, in Lollipop, and so, like, if we know Brown Sugar Macchiato, the acting was not that great. And I mean, they were kids then. You know, so, but in my head, I'm like, oh, you know, they're gonna be fine, but it's not gonna be as amazing as Chris, you know, is. But his subtleties are so, like, it's all in his face, but it's so natural, and it just feels like, oh, yeah, I'm just watching him as him. You know, like, I'm not, you know, sometimes when, like, people are acting, you're like, oh, yeah, they're acting. You're just watching someone act, but he's just being.
Mm-hmm. I felt the same way.
Yeah.
He made it feel really easy.
Yeah.
Like one of those actors who you're like, what is he doing? Is he even doing anything? Except for you're already lost in the character. You already buy him as the character. So yes, he's doing a lot.
Yeah.
By not acting. I am acting, you know.
But I love it when, like, my favorite actors are the ones that act with their eyes. More than their gestures and their, like, large expressions, and then, like, their, you know, crazy, like, you know, the vein popping off their neck kind of acting, which is, like, to me is, like, really over. But his acting is, like, it's all in his eyes, his little tiny, like, mannerisms. It's just, it's so fun to watch when, like, you're just watching a really good actor and they've really, like, dug into, like, the character, and it's just him, and it's in their eyes, and they're, like, little tiny, like, little smirk or whatever it is, just little minuscule things that just show you, like, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
You know what this show didn't have a lot of, and they had a little bit of it? Shouting. These characters didn't shout their emotions at each other very much.
Yeah.
And when they did, it meant a lot more because they spent so much time grounded and real. Like, think about it. How much time do you spend shouting at other people? I hope it's not much.
Yeah.
Because I think you're maybe a monster out there in internet land if you're shouting at the people around you all the time. But I think a lot of times shouting in television and movies gets confused for passion and emotion and fire. And it's like, can you stop shouting? You don't have to shout your emotions. Mm-hmm. And this show did such a good job of letting them play out, letting them speak for themselves in subtle ways and pauses and looks that were way more effective to me than someone shouting their love from the rooftops.
Yeah. It feels just deeper when the love is like held in rather than like, written on their face, or like, every other word is like, I love you or whatever. I just feel like their emotions, like, even though subtle and like quiet, it's like you can hear it like as if it's, shouted through a loudspeaker.
Yeah, I'm going to use a really, really crazy reference, so just go with me.
Okay.
This is so stupid, but it reminds me of the story of the guy who voiced Optimus Prime talking about how he found that voice for the Transformers character. And again, this has nothing to do directly with this show other than I want to talk about Transformers. But no, he was given the advice from his brother. It says, hey, if you're going to be a hero, you need to be strong enough to be vulnerable. And so when he went into voice Optimus Prime, he found that vulnerability in this deep voice of the leader of the Autobots. So it was the subtlety underneath the strength that made that a powerful character. And I think that goes here too. It's not just, I love you. There's this subtlety to the emotion when he says that. There's a vulnerability to it that's also saying, I don't want to lose you. I can't fail you. I want to protect you. And all these things. So when he says things, I don't know, is the only time the words literally, I love you?
Was mouthed.
With mouth. It wasn't said out loud.
Yeah.
And by far, I'm sure it was the first time it was said, and it may not have been said at all in the rest of the show. It was just mouthed.
Yep, it was just mouthed, and it was because he thought maybe he was gonna die.
Yeah, it's a crazy, I'm just thinking of that just now, that's the only time in the whole show that they say the words. Like, he says, I like you, he says, I'm into you, he says all the things that I want to be with you, but he's not like, I love you. Like, so many dramas, it's the crutch that I'm like, find a different way to say it. You're writers, it's your job to find a different way to say it.
Yeah. It's just so strong. It's just so freaking strong.
So what I think we're saying, too, is if you are looking for a drama that is wearing its feelings on its chest like a graphic t-shirt, this isn't the drama for you. This is one that you need to put the phone down. You need to not multi-screen and not multitask. Sit there and watch it. It's only, 8 episodes?
It's 12 episodes.
12 episodes. Sit down and watch it, because that's how you're going to feel it.
Yeah. I think everyone does a pretty good job. Other than, I think Ryan has opinions on Tammy's acting. She plays Xiaobao, the younger sister.
I didn't dislike her. I didn't love the character. The character was a little bit annoying to me at first. Like the bratty little sister who comes into your room and bugs you even when you don't want her to hang out with you and steals your snacks. Don't steal my damn snacks. I brought my snacks home for me. All right? I'm not married to you. You're my sister. You don't get my damn snacks.
This character of hers is very common in Taiwanese dramas. I feel like, it's like when a female character doesn't have, like, a whole lot of responsibility in the drama. Like, their character just doesn't have, like, a meaty role, and they're just there. They tend to make her character like this.
Yeah.
I think if she were to have a meatier role, I think it would be different, and you're going to realize she's actually a pretty good actress.
I don't think she did don't think she did a bad job. I think her character was very not complex, and I think that's what you're referencing, she wasn't given very much, but I also don't think the actor dug deep enough to get anything more out of it. And there was just moments where it felt like she was just reciting dialogue rather than feeling the scene and it kind of took me out of it.
Yeah.
But for the most part, she wasn't distracting. I think maybe her biggest problem was that the other two were just so strong.
Yeah. And also, so I'm going to talk about a specific scene that, like, really showed, like, I don't even think it's lack of experience. I think it's lack of, like, concentration onto her character. But she comes home and she's seeing, like, all the dishes on the dining table, and she goes, oh, I like this, and you even have this, and I know that she was probably not even given any dialogue, and it was all improv. Maybe she's not very good at improv, right?
But also in that case, not given anything to work with anyway.
Yeah. But that kind of shows, like, how much they didn't really give her character.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why we don't see enough of her acting.
She did get better as she was given things to play, like when she's playing the relationship and the pregnancy and stuff like that. She is given a little more to play, and she's better in those scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And also more mature, and so that also might have been an acting choice, to play the character very immature at the beginning within scenes, and then play the character a little more reserved and mature in later scenes. It was more earlier in the show that it bothered me than later on.
I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be a season 2. And I think she might get like a meteor role in season 2, because I think it's going to be her and Sampang's story. And I say that, like, I'm not sure if they've ever announced that there's going to be season 2. Maybe they've already announced it. I don't know. But, or they didn't announce it, and this is just all my, like, assumption and guesses and stuff like this. But I say it because, in the preview, there were scenes that were left in the preview, like, her and Sampang at, like, the amusement park. And, like, just things like that we didn't see in this season 1 drama. Right? And the thing is, yeah, you could say, oh, it could just be a deleted scene, but then why keep it in the preview every episode? And I also say this because it's Result Entertainment. They also did We Best Love, and that they did the same thing with We Best Love. In We Best Love season 1, they left scenes in the preview that were not in season 1 at all. And it was, later included in, like, the special episode with the second couple, and then also into season 2. And so then, at some point they announced that there was going to be a We Best Love season 2, and a lot of the scenes that were already shot and put into the
title sequence?
Yeah, like the theme song and all that were scenes that they shot for season 2. So I'm assuming that they are definitely going to have a season 2, because they have scenes that they shot and they're going to add that to season 2.
Well, when you look on Google, when you Google it and you just type in unknown Taiwanese series, and before you finish typing, one of the most searched things is season 2 release date, which they don't have yet, but that means people are searching for it.
Yeah.
So people are thinking very similar to you, that there's more to come from this.
Yes. And of course, how crazy popular it is now. I can't imagine them not doing a season 2. I don't necessarily think that the couple will be the concentration of season 2. That's my assumption. Now that we've talked about how much we loved the drama, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the little things that they kind of missed the mark on.
Maybe even some big things they missed the mark on. Because I do think, while this drama was very well done, very well acted, the emotions, everything we said, I agree with. It did feel like there was certain things that didn't fit into place to really make it the perfect drama.
Yeah. So I had a little issue with Sampang's character in terms of how he dealt with learning that Xiaoyuan had feelings for Wei Qian. it felt a little out of character because Sampang has always been, like, taking care of this family. Like, he's, like, yeah, Wei Qian's the big brother, but really Sampang is the even bigger brother.
He's like the guardian angel almost for this family a little bit. Like, the extra support system outside the normal family.
Yeah. And so when it happens that he learns that Xiaoyuan is into Wei Qian, I know he's more concerned about Wei Qian because Wei Qian is his best friend. But also, like, he has also taken Xiaoyuan under his wing. And no matter how much he thinks like he's doing the right thing, I feel like he should take more care of Xiaoyuan's feelings. And I don't think he really, at least in this moment, he really considered Xiaoyuan's feelings. Everything was more Wei Qian, right? To me, that's out of character because from the beginning, he's always cared. Like, he's never, like, put Xiaoyuan, because he's not blood related to Wei Qian, like, he's never put him second.
No, absolutely not.
So when this all happens, it feels like, oh, he's putting him second.
Well, this gets to something that annoys me about this type of character in general, where the filmmakers basically made him be the character they needed him to be for each scene that he's in. So if they needed a mean character, he was the mean guy. If they needed a helpful character, then he got to be the helpful character. If they needed someone to have an idea in a scene, he had an idea in a scene. So that he never really developed a character. He was just needed for whatever moment the story needed that moment. And in that moment, they needed someone to voice the opposition of the relationship. Because the relationship is complicated. I don't think we should beat around the bush. The relationship is complicated. It's not just cut and dry.
Yeah.
And they needed someone in that scene to say, hey, this is complicated. But I agree with you. There's no tact in that scene and no thought for a young man's feelings.
Yes. And I don't think, as his character is, I don't think that fit his character at all.
No, it's just what the scene needed. I agree with it 100%.
Yeah, and especially the scene where he already knows Xiaoyuan's feelings, and then he decided to introduce Feng Ning at the company party to Xiaoyuan.
Right.
It was so, like, not real.
Mean.
It was mean.
It was just mean.
Yeah.
I was like, why is he doing that?
Yeah. And he's like, and his character's not stupid, so it, like, to say, like, oh, he didn't think of it. No, he thought of it.
Yeah, which makes it, like, really unnecessarily mean, like kicking sand in the kid's face.
Yeah.
It's one thing, you said directly to him, don't go down this road. Okay,
Yeah.
you said that directly. Maybe that's your right as the friend and as someone who cares. Okay, fine.
Or even an older brother.
Right. But now you're just kicking sand in the kid's face by going, hey, not only are you not allowed to pursue him, here's the woman that is allowed to pursue him that I'm pushing on real hard.
Yeah.
Like, gross.
Yeah. So that is a huge issue. I feel like there had to be a better way get to the scene that they needed to get to without making Sampang totally, like, a different person.
I mean, it's pretty easy. Like, why can't the woman just approach the younger brother and be like, hey, I'm in business? And, like, he knows who she is. He knows what she's after.
Yeah, and then she can say, oh, I've heard a lot about you. You must be Xiaoyuan. You know, like, it doesn't...
There's no reason for Sampang to be like, let me parade this girl out in front of you. Like,
yeah.
And especially because I think looking back, like, there's the scene where with the wallet that Sampang clocks.
Mm-hmm.
And when he takes the graduation photo, like, he's looking at his older brother instead of looking at the camera. Like, there's plenty of times. And then the one that I was really thinking of is when the lead gets set up on those blind dates, the series of blind dates that the siblings are all watching.
Mm-hmm.
Now that you know what you know now as Sampang and how uncomfortable the dating sequence was and this kid's feelings, now that you know that, you have time to reflect on all those moments.
Yeah.
And then to still go, hey, here's the chick I'm trying to pawn your brother off of. You know that's uncomfortable for him.
Yeah.
Leave him alone.
Yeah. That was uncalled for.
Other than that, I thought he was an okay character. He didn't do a lot, and I don't think he was given a ton as a character to do. And I think that's the types of characters that fall into these roles of, hey, let's make this character do whatever we need for the story.
Yeah. Weirdly, I think I like Lao Sheng more. He's the other business partner.
Right.
He's also, like, one of the older brothers, but he's so, like, accepting of everybody.
But he also didn't think it was his place to judge.
Yes.
Like, he's like, hey, even if I had opposition feelings to this, who am I? Who am I to, like, tell you or anyone else how to handle your love life?
Yeah. Yeah. So I think I appreciate him more. Not that I dislike Sanpang. I actually like his character. And again, he is, like, the guardian angel for this family. But, just, like, certain times when he needed to be a certain way, they made him that way. So
the other thing that I did not love about the show was the emphasis put on the type of emotions that were put on it. And it's kind of hard to wade through here, so I'm going to do my best. But I don't think the filmmakers gave me enough romantic feels to cheer for these two guys to be together. I understood that they loved each other very much. They had this really close bond, but it felt like the filmmakers put so much emphasis on protecting each other, taking care of each other, being there for each other, depending on each other. This dependency, this bond, this familial love. They put so much emphasis on that I wasn't feeling the romance. So while I knew this was going to be a romantic story about how they got together, I was never really cheering for them to be together. I was cheering for them to be in each other's lives, to be supportive of each other. But it felt like all the emotions, every time someone would, kind of justify their feelings, it was used in terms of familial bond that you could have just said the same thing about a family member. It was never about romance and passion and all these other things. And we saw glimpses of it, but it just wasn't enough for me.
Yeah.
And so it was very hard. I felt very conflicted through the whole thing because I was like, do I want them to actually be together in the way this young guy wants to be together? And I just wasn't quite, they didn't quite get me there.
Yeah, so I know some people had concerns about finally when Xiaoyuan confesses and Wei Qian basically pushes him away and sends him off to the States, right? There were some concerns because I feel like he got really mad. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like if someone, forced themselves on me, I would be very upset and I would, feel that I could get violent too. And being mad is his right to be, right? But after the fact, where he had several days to cool down, I feel like just, having Sanpang show up and be like, oh, your brother's sending you to the States, here's all this information or whatever. It also kind of doesn't feel like his character in terms of, oh, now he's pushing him away and abandoning him. And you don't find that he would be a character that would abandon with all the responsibilities he chose to take on. I don't think that he would really choose to abandon Xiaoyuan, right? But in Xiaoyuan's eyes, it's like, he's turned his back on me. He's abandoned me. And then with the audience, we're so mad at him. We're mad at Wei Qian, right? But I think this kind of falls into what you're saying, is that we didn't get to see any kind of romance. And I think the easy fix is just really showing that Wei Qian is also faltering. You see that he actually has developed these romantic feelings for Xiaoyuan, and then being upset with himself. And the only way he knows how to deal with it is to run away and denial. And so that's why, justifying his emotions, he's pushing Xiaoyuan away.
Yeah, because it felt unnecessarily harsh and quick. And I think his reaction is only to the younger brother's feelings, not to any feelings that exist inside of him.
Yeah.
And so he's just reacting to external things that are coming at him and going, pushing them away.
Yeah. Which goes against what he was saying before, and the whole reason of why, after him finding out that Xiaoyuan was interested in men, that he still allowed him to share a bed with him, was because he didn't want Xiaoyuan to feel like he was being rejected, and that he'll probably be rejected by society, and so he didn't want his own family to reject him.
Well, nothing has changed that you've told me this. It's still the same. It's fine.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so they didn't show when, he was confessed to those same emotions. So it almost felt, not that it was like he was hypocritical, but I just feel like giving him those like concerns about himself and then not knowing if that's okay, to have those same feelings for Xiaoyuan, like that will make it feel a little bit better for the audience, that when he decides to, push Xiaoyuan away. And it's not because he's, against him being into men. It's that he's not sure if he should fall for his younger brother also.
Right, and I think in a show that is so complex everywhere else, they went a little simplistic in this moment, and then it showed.
Yeah.
Because they could have gone the way you're saying, where make these feelings complex here as well. It's not as simple as, you can't be in love with me, goodbye. That's an easy thing to do. Not saying easy for the character, but easy as a filmmaker. Oh, I reacted to a thing. It's much harder for a character to go, oh, I'm also reacting to something inside of me that I don't know if I like or not.
Yeah.
Therefore, let me remove the thing that's making me feel a weird way inside.
Yeah.
But instead it was just, no, push, and then that's it.
Yeah. I think either they were going simplistic or they're, doing subtlety, but at this point, as much as I like subtlety, their subtlety was way too subtle.
I agree. I think that's why so many of the moments that didn't ring true as romance for me, it rang true as, again, like a familial bond, the same way you feel about your actual blood brother. Those emotions were so present. But then when you pursue someone in a romantic way, those feelings are a little different. And those feelings were always so subtle. And so they were kind of drowned out by this other type of love. Because there's more than one type of love.
Yeah.
And so it's just, I wish they would have done a better job. It's weird to sit here and say I wanted a little less subtlety. Because normally I'm so sick of getting hit in the face with a hammer with the I love yous and all that stuff. But I did feel like I just needed a little bit more from them to go, man, I want these two to be together. Oh, I hope in the next scene they can kiss and make up, figuratively and literally.
Yeah. I feel like the only real sign we got that Wei Qian was actually attracted to Xiaoyuan is that the scene where, Xiaoyuan's back from the States and he's drunk and he wakes up from the night before and Xiaoyuan's like sitting on the floor at the edge of his bed, and he just kind of like enjoys looking at Xiaoyuan, and with like, that was the only scene where you saw on Chris's face, on Wei Qian's face, that there was an attraction. There was like actual like romantic feelings and not a brotherly feeling.
Yeah, and that's so small. Like, blink and you would miss it.
It's so small, but I feel like we needed that before this scene.
That I agree with. Sooner. Exactly. Yes. That would have solved so much for me, I think, in the progression, because it felt so one-sided. Because we knew they both had equal amounts of familial love for each other. We knew that. That was unquestioned.
Yes.
But the attraction was only coming from one direction. And if we would have just gotten the hint that it was also there, that they were both seeing a spark in each other, even if neither of them could act on it, then I think it would have gone a long way for me to want them to be a couple.
Yes. And it was so one-sided to the point, even towards the end where Wei Chen, gives in is that I feel like, is he just giving in? Like, is he just allowing, his brother to pull him in whatever direction and just like giving in to his whims because he's always given in to his siblings' whims.
Yeah, he's always put his siblings before himself.
Yeah.
And that's part of his character journey, is putting his health first and learning about, hey, take care of yourself because you have to be around. It's not just about protecting us. You have to be around for you also. And so in that moment, it's like, wait, did he learn the lesson that he's supposed to also indulge in what he wants? Or is he just
going along with it again?
Yeah. So it's a little murky.
Yeah.
And I think in one like this, there's so much where murky doesn't suit your story.
Yeah. Yes. More romance. More of it.
I'm so shocked you have that opinion. But also me, Mr. Anti-Romance. More romance.
So, an issue that I have is the ending. The weird ending where, like, and this is such a, like, dumb thing because so many dramas, movies do this, that I feel like they just felt like they had to do it too, is, the misdirect. So, like, oh yeah, they show that they decide that Wei Chan's gonna go get surgery. And then the next scene is, Xiao Yuan walking back home on his own, and he is, voiceover, and he's talking about, like, no matter what happened, like, he's always gonna be, blah, blah, blah. Just, like, that misdirect of, like, oh, he possibly died during the surgery, which is, like, we know that's not gonna happen. Can you not do that? It's such, like, I don't know.
Why?
Exactly.
I just go, why? Because it's fun for 30 seconds of screen time. Like, it is literally worth 0.
Yeah.
To pull that off. I'm like, but what's the purpose? Especially this late in the show. Like, if you want to play that drama, you have many times to actually play the drama. And don't play it here.
Yeah.
Give us a break.
Yeah, I hate that dumb misdirect. It just doesn't work.
Can we talk about the cringe office ladies?
Yes, because they were super cringe. First of all, what is it your business what anyone else's bedroom is like? It don't matter who, like, let alone your boss, right? But, like, also, like, why is it your business, like, how they decide to have sex? That irritates me.
I was over those, the office folk, way earlier than that. Like, there was even moments where it's like, oh, his brother takes good care of him. Who gives a shit? Do your job.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the water cooler folks who just, like, stir the pot in these dramas, who it's like you have no other purpose in the show except for, like, to gossip.
Yeah, it's also, like, over the top gossip.
So over the top.
Yeah. So, like, in true, like, classic Taiwanese acting, those office workers were it.
Yeah, it was so cliche and so dumb of, like, oh, we need the clucking hens outside all clucking. And, oh, wonder what's going on in there. It's like, shut up. First of all, none of your business. Second of all, you're a boring basic bitch. Go away. Go get your own man or woman. Whoever you want to love. Why don't you go do something for yourself? Or get your ass back to work and stop eating all my snacks. Because they were eating the snacks, and they were talking the shit. That's all they did. And I don't appreciate it.
You have, like, snack issues.
Listen, snacks are a sacred treasure. They don't belong to basic bitches who like to gossip. You get no snacks.
All right. Yeah, so very cringe factor. I don't know why it was added in. I know they were trying to, like, make it more lighthearted after they are together.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate the lightheartedness and the cuteness, and I love that scene where he takes them out for steak dinner at the same place.
At the little like roadside tent.
Yeah.
That's owned by the former gangster who's a tattooed, and they ask him to sing.
Yeah. Like, I love that. It's so cute. It's so, like, I don't know. It's so him. It's just, it's perfect. But, But we did not need the office workers.
I will say something about the restaurant thing. That is an example. Let's say you wanted to do a fancy steak dinner. Like, you wanted to show these two on a really hot date because they had not been on a date the whole show.
Yeah.
But as a production, you're like, listen, we can't afford to shoot at a fancy steakhouse. So what do? You could fake a fancy steakhouse and do something really super lame and dress it up and it'll look terrible and it's a bad idea. Or you can take the resources available to you and craft a scene that is still romantic and still a date, but is very character-y and is on a set that you own and have used all show long. So you're taking all these resources and you're creating a scene that isn't the typical romantic date in a fancy steakhouse. No, it's better.
It's adorable.
And so your resources have pushed you into a corner and you've written your way out of it. That's something I can really appreciate.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Ryan's biggest hang-up.
Well, we've already talked about a little bit of the fact that they gave me so much familial love and affection and all these feelings that family members have for each other, and they lacked in the romance department a little bit for me to buy them as a couple, as a bona fide couple. But I got over it. And they got together and it felt right, and I was on board with them until the last frame of the show that made me question whether or not the filmmakers understood what kind of show they were making. So just to clarify, the difference between familial bond and the bond you're choosing to have with a romantic partner. So we get all the way through it. They hook up. They have a really nice time together. They go on this cool date. Everyone understands that they are a couple. And now the sister's having a baby, and we're kind of flashing forward a little bit, and it's like happy, everything's happy. And they go to the bureau or whatever, the end table, and they have family pictures there. And the first picture is from his college graduation with big brother, little bro, sister. Happy family. And then we pan across, and we see sister and Sampang and their fat little baby smiling. Oh, look at this little new family that was created out of that original family. And then we pan across, and what I was expecting to see was a photo of our two lead guys together as their kind of own new little family unit. You know, they could have given them a beagle or something, you know?
Oh my God, please get them a beagle.
But instead, it's another picture, big bro, little bro, sister. And that's the frame you're choosing to end on, which makes me think the filmmakers think that the familial bond was the most important bond of the show. And that's what we were building to. When in fact it was the romantic bond they should have been selling us. And now, thinking about that, I was like, oh, you had me. I wasn't cheering for them to be together, and then I was good with it, and I was on board, and then this last frame made me think you don't know what kind of show you made. And I was like, you can't get all the way to the finish line and then trip and fall on your face. Because now I'm like, wait, do you even understand what show you made? Because all the emotions that Mel's talking about, you invoked all those emotions, but then at the end, you made me think you didn't even know, like you did it by accident. I'm like, wait, what? And I sat there for like a good 5 minutes after the last frame of the show, just stunned. Like, how do you trip going across the finish line? So, mixed feelings. Makes me have mixed feelings.
Yeah. I also agree that I actually didn't notice it. Like, I didn't feel it up until you mentioned it, and I was like, you're right. It should have been a couple picture. And it's just like the progression of their family and relationship and how much it's changed, yet it's the same, similar. But, yeah, like it should have been a lover's picture instead of the family picture.
Because they do such a good job of showing the evolution of this little family. Like, these two guys are not blood related, but they spent a lot of time together since they were very, very young. And now their family has evolved. Like, Wei Qian's best friend is with his sister, and they have a baby, and he's come to terms with that. So we should have seen the evolution of both sides, not just the one side. Because that's the whole show, to me, is they're basically telling us that the evolution of this relationship, it's okay. It's okay for it to go from this familial bond to them being romantically involved. They're not blood related. There's nothing wrong with it. I think there are situations where it would be wrong if someone was taking advantage of someone else or someone had a power dynamic that wasn't healthy. There's a version of this that's very, very wrong, but in the way it's presented to us, it wasn't. But then why aren't you showing us that evolution of the relationship in the last frame of the show?
Yeah. Also, I had a huge gripe with how they edited their sex scene. It's like finally they're intimate with each other, and while they're intimate with each other, they're cutting, all the occurrences that happen throughout the years of their relationship, right? But they also included it when they were kids.
Yeah.
And while they're having sex, they cut in those scenes where they were kids. What they did so well was that they didn't show that they had feelings for each other while they were kids.
Right, it was matured. Yeah.
It was when they matured that they had these feelings for each other, right? And previously, when they were kids, it was solely a brother dynamic, brother relationship, brother feelings, right? So while they're having sex, you should not have them as children, as adolescents, cut into the scenes of their interaction. You should only have when they're matured and those feelings that have already developed. Then you can show those scenes while they're having sex. But please leave the kids out of it while they're having sex, please.
Yeah, you're not even supposed to have pictures of your own kids in your bedroom. You know what I mean? Like parents, keep the kids off the nightstand, because if you're having romantic time with the wife, you don't want to roll over and your kids are staring at you. I think that's pretty universal idea. But it's disappointing because the show paid attention to details so well, so much of the time, and it felt like that sequence was an editor putting together. They were like, hey, give us the flashbacks of the relationship. Tell the story of the progression of their relationship while they're having sex. And the editor just decided to use it all.
But probably clips that they already had edited together and they just slapped it in.
Yeah, it was just thrown in as a sequence, right? Oh, we're going to cut together a sequence. But the care wasn't taken to go back and go, okay, should all of these images be here? Yes, they can be here. Yes, they do tell the story of their relationship from beginning to end. But actually, attention to detail, it does not tell the story of their romance, because by the show itself tells us, I don't know when I developed these feelings. I developed them at some point in later years. It didn't happen when they were kids. So you've told us that already, but then you forgot. And you included it in this edit. And again, for the ending, it's an attention to detail that, man, if I was on set, I'd be like, why are these pictures like that? That is telling the wrong story. And it's just disappointing because they did so much of the rest of it so stinking right.
Yeah. So they definitely missed those opportunities to make it completely perfect.
Mm-hmm. So for those who may not know, as we talk about the rating of each show, we have our very own proprietary rating system here at Drama Means. So if you don't know exactly what we mean when we say in the buffet line or land sickness or throwing up buckets, you can go to our Instagram at Drama Means, and we will have posted there a brief explanation of what all of these handy dandy little rankings mean. And given that, what are the rankings for this one?
Well, it's actually at Drama Means Podcast.
Wait, I didn't even know the words podcast is there?
Yeah.
Damn it. I should really learn this
I
stuff.
believe it's Drama Means _podcast.
Holy crap. Well, I'm not re-recording that. All this is staying in.
Anyway, my rating is, as you might have guessed, it's Around the World in 80 Days, because I just loved it that much. Yes, they did miss the mark on quite a few things, actually, but in the grand scheme of things, I loved it so much. I love their love. I love their family. yeah, it's perfect, even though it's not perfect, you know? But yeah, Around the World in 80 Days.
I'm a much harsher critic, as always. I did enjoy the show. I thought it was really well done. I applaud the effort. I applaud the complexity of the characters and the storytelling. And I think it's good to watch things where you don't always know exactly how to feel. But they did lose me in a couple areas, so I'm giving this an in the buffet line. It was very, very, very close to Drinks on a Pool Deck. But for me, it's in the buffet line. And again, if you want to know what that means, head to Instagram and check out Dramameans_podcast.
So our rec for this week, I say this there's two reasons why I'm recommending this. It's I really searched and thought about what other drama made me feel the way I feel now, other than Unknown. And I honestly was thinking about it, and it's been a really long time since a story has made me feel as complex and emotional as Unknown. And I believe the last story was Husky and his white cat Shizhen. So it's a book written by Robao Buchiro. Basically a xianxia story about disciple and master and the kind of forbidden love that they have for each other. You know, finding out all the misunderstandings that they had and slowly, you know, falling in love, and just like the deep emotions and the buried emotions that they have for each other kind of just overflows. And I recommend this book. And I also recommend it because I just got the newest volume, the English translated version. I started reading it through an online translated, like fan translated version online. And then finally Seven Seas picked it up and has been publishing the actual legitimate books. So I've been buying those and rereading it, and I got the newest volume. So that's why I'm also recommending this.
So if you have the chance to order that, go check that out. And if you haven't seen Unknown, obviously it comes very, very highly recommended by us.
Yes. And that's it for us this week, and thanks for listening.
Thank you.